Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, The Primordial Law. Volume 7, The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 111, 786, Elimination. 111th of Volume 7. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. 2 hours later. Li Wei arrived at the border between Hanzhou, Han Province, and Luzhou, Lu Province. Standing atop a desolate mountain covered in crimson rocks, he released Xuanhuan Qingting and 7th Phoenix. The former went to gather her insect swarm, while the latter soared into the night sky to scout. The Clear Void Qingshu sect is one of the ancient Taoist sects, deeply connected to the Calamity Crossing Temple. For this battle, I'll employ Taoist 5 elements and 8 trigrams techniques. Combined with my enhanced physical strength, I should be able to counter Ji Junxiang's imperial techniques and myriad inscriptions artifact. Li Wei had cultivated the Xuanhuan sect's 8 trigrams supreme profound scripture and had recently been studying 5 elements cultivation methods. Moreover, as the sect leader of the Chan sect, he was inherently Taoist in nature, leaving no openings in his demeanor. Soon, 7th Phoenix returned. They're here. Li Wei sighed inwardly. Ji Junxiang remained superior to Mo Duanfeng and Nangong, possessing top-tier cunning and skill with no apparent weaknesses. With a flicker of movement, he vanished from the mountain peak, merging into the night. Tonight, Li Wei had a single objective, to seize the Void Ruins Empress's scepter and scepter jade scroll from Ji Junxiang without revealing his own identity. Nangong, wielding the jade bamboo staff and a divine speed talisman pressed against her chest, fought her way through the encirclement. Blood streamed down her body as she fled at breakneck speed, her heart aching with a sorrow that made her want to weep. She knew the Holy Commander was waiting to meet her ahead. If she could reach Han Province, he would surely help her escape. But Nangong had never imagined meeting him as a defeated person. The Holy Commander was risking everything to help her, jeopardizing his hard-won concealment. At that moment, Nangong was consumed by self-reproach and shame. She recalled their desperate escape from the Void Ruins ancient kingdom, when she had believed herself to have grown stronger, convinced that this time she would not fail, would not be a burden again. Chong Yujian, riding atop a cloud spider, intercepted her from the side, sending a telepathic message. Nangong, surrender the Jade Tome and spiritual artifacts, concede defeat, and I'll spare your life. Tonight's circumstances are extraordinary. You can't escape any further. Leaving the starry sky mirror's range would be extremely dangerous. Bound by his own loyalties, he couldn't say more. Even this warning risked being seen as treason. Whoosh. Whoosh. From other directions, 4th Immortal Realm experts Qi Jianru and Shen Jian, clad in blood-piercing floating pagoda demon armor and treading on bridges of spiritual qi, converged in an encircling maneuver. In the distant sky, Ji Junxiang, wielding the Void Ruins Empress's scepter, streaked across the horizon like a meteor, rapidly closing the distance. Chong Yujian ceased speaking and decisively struck. Whoosh. The 9th rank 1000 inscriptions artifact, the Azure Jade Ancient Sword, unleashed a river of azure sword qi that spanned 3 miles, tearing through the air with a single strike. Nangong turned and parried, sending the Azure Jade Ancient Sword spinning back. Her protective spiritual qi, like a luminous dome, completely blocked the river of sword qi. Ha ha ha. The Holy Maiden still refuses to surrender. You're carrying the Life Spring Jade Tome, right? Let Long Qi verify that. Long Qi, enveloped in a dragon shadow, erupted from the earth. His towering, muscular frame soared into the air, his body covered in white dragon scales, his arms bulging with raw power. With a thunderous roar that shook the wasteland, he unleashed a palm strike. A 30-foot-long phantom dragon claw and a mountain-sized dragon shadow surged forth from his arm and hand. Nangong's momentum was completely halted, forcing her to parry. She thrust her jade bamboo staff like a sword, striking the center of the dragon claw's palm. Boom! The phantom dragon claw shattered, sending Long Qi flying backward. Nangong retreated 3 steps, falling into the encirclement of 5 immortal ascension beings clad in blood-piercing floating pagoda demon armor. Her luminous eyes swept the perimeter, searching for an opening. The 5 figures stood dozens of meters away, advancing steadily, their bodies wreathed in swirling demonic clouds. The scriptures of their spiritual artifacts transformed into a vast sea of characters, engulfing the surrounding 3 miles. A piercing whistle cut through the air. A crossbow bolt shot from the darkness, striking the back of one immortal ascension being's head. The immortal ascension being screamed, pitching forward to slam face first into the mud. Though his blood-piercing floating pagoda demon armor blocked the bolt, the shockwave alone left him dazed, his consciousness fading, unable to rise again. Careful. It's a demonic concealment crossbow, Long Qi warned. Having spent years training in the military, he could identify crossbows by the sound of their bolts. The demonic concealment crossbow was a 7th grade 1000 inscriptions artifact. Not only did it possess immense power, but it could also fire in rapid succession, making it a devastating weapon in the Demon Kingdom's arsenal and a coveted item on the black market. Swish. 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 Bolts rained down in quick succession. Li Wei wielded his crossbow with one hand, his figure a ghost shadow darting through the darkness. The immortal ascension being formation of the demon kingdom was in complete disarray. Qi Jianru, Long Qi, and Chong Yujian tried to counterattack, but they couldn't even lock onto their enemy's position. Regroup and defend with the floating pagoda battle formation. Ji Yu Junxiang will arrive shortly, Long Qi shouted, his voice ringing through the darkness. He held a shield in one hand and a spear in the other, his Dao heart manifestation fully unleashed, pinpointing the approximate location of their attacker. His gaze burned like torches, fixed intently on the shadows. Surrender and be spared. This is your only chance. Li Wei moved with lightning speed, closing in on Chong Yujian first. Crack. A fissure several meters long split the ground before Chong Yujian. The abyssal spider erupted from the depths, joining the cloud spider. Together, they swung their razor-sharp spider spears, slashing at the charging Li Wei. The two spiders were formidable warriors. With their aid, Chong Yujian could even stand against Nangong. Undaunted, Li Wei maintained his speed. He condensed spiritual qi into an 8-trigram seal before him, sending the cloud spider, abyssal spider, and Chong Yujian flying backward. Chong Yujian lost his grip on his sword, his body aching as if crushed by a mountain. Before he could land, Li Wei materialized beside him and struck his chest with a palm strike. PFF'd. Blood sprayed from Chong Yujian's mouth and nose as he crashed heavily to the ground, leaving an 8-trigram-shaped crater. Too strong, too fast, completely impossible to counter. How could such a powerful warrior exist? Li Wei landed beside him, raised his hand, and caught the falling azure jade ancient sword. The demonic concealment crossbow pointed at Chong Yujian's face. Yield. Chong Yujian was not one to surrender easily, especially with the blood-floating pagoda demon armor still active. But seeing the crossbow wielder's eyes, he instantly understood the situation. This battle concerns the very survival of the Chong clan. How could I, Chong Yujian, possibly yield? Your spirit is admirable, this Xiao respects it. Li Wei nodded slightly, knowing Chong Yujian needed a compelling reason to surrender. He had no choice but to act ruthlessly, to provide an explanation to his superiors. With a swift motion, he stomped on Chong Yujian's right knee. A bone-shattering crack echoed through the arena. Chong Yujian's right leg snapped inward, the pain visible to the naked eye. Chong Yujian screamed, I yield. I withdraw. I withdraw from the Immortal Ascension competition. With desperate speed, he hurled his own jade tome and the 6 he had collected. Don't reveal your true form, Chong Yujian transmitted telepathically through his willpower as he screamed. Be wary of extreme measures. Trust no one but Nangong and a few others. Not long ago, Chong Yujian had met with the Chong clan's elders. Their attitude had shifted, they now urged him to simply do his best, free from excessive pressure, and to treat the competition as a trial by fire. It was precisely this mindset that allowed him to remain calm and offer subtle reminders. Li Wei retrieved the azure jade ancient sword, glanced at Ji Yu Junxiang, who was descending from midair 20 zhang away, and turned to strike at the demonic kingdom faction's immortal ascension beings, who were attempting to form the floating pagoda battle formation. Nangong had already engaged them in combat. Li Wei channeled his spiritual qi, activating the battle sword. The azure radiance erupting from the blade dyed the sky and earth with a uniform hue, unleashing the full might of the 9th rank 1000 inscriptions artifact. Sword qi radiating from the blade carved deep sword marks into the ground. He wielded the sword with no Dao techniques or sword techniques, relying solely on its inherent power to cleave through the enemy. Boom. The azure jade ancient sword shattered the spiritual artifact battle blade of an immortal ascension being clad in blood-piercing floating pagoda demon armor, its edge landing squarely on his shoulder. The blood glyphs shimmering on the man's skin proved no match for the sword's overwhelming power. From shoulder to ribs and arm, a series of cracking sounds echoed as half the man's body collapsed inward. While the blood-floating pagoda demon armor boasted formidable defenses, it was still merely a 9th rank 1000 inscriptions artifact. Against such a vast disparity in combat power, it stood no chance. Nangong, we don't have time to seize artifacts one by one or demand the jade tomes. Just throw them into your heaven-grade realm pouch first. I'll hold off the enemy while you follow behind and collect the stragglers. This time, Li Wei had no intention of merely defeating his enemies and fleeing. He wanted the jade tome and their spiritual artifacts as well. I surrender. Shen Jian, the top expert of the Cloud Ruins life realm, was terrified. He managed to utter only 2 words before Li Wei struck him across the face with his sword, knocking him unconscious. It was as if his 3 souls and 7 spirits had been scattered by the blow. What was that? I didn't quite hear you, Li Wei said, raising his sword and charging toward another opponent. Nangong swiftly followed, storing Shen Jian in her heaven-grade realm pouch. She had heard of Li Wei's extraordinary strength, how he could single-handedly face the 4 great experts. But now, forced to conceal his identity, he couldn't use his imperial technique, myriad inscriptions artifact, evil camel bell, psychic power, or formations. How could he still be so powerful? Even Nangong, who knew the truth, felt a flicker of disbelief. It was hard to believe that the man disguised as Xiao Yu was actually Li Wei. Long Qi, witnessing Xiao Yu's terrifying combat prowess, an opponent who seemed invincible, recoiled in shock. Xiao Yu. How is this possible? Are you really Xiao Yu? The person before him possessed such overwhelming martial mystic power and cultivation level were far beyond what a ninth-generation immortal ascendant could possess. So, you think you're the only ones with hidden experts? The only ones who can break through to the fifth immortal realm? Did you truly believe this Xiao had defected to the demon kingdom? I was merely toying with you. My cultivation has already reached the peak of the fifth immortal realm. Who among you can stand against me? Li Wei grabbed Nangong's hand, feigning that he was revealing his true strength for her sake, while secretly remaining vigilant against Ji Junxiang behind them. He surged forward, reaching Long Qi in an instant, and swung his sword in a horizontal slash. Almost simultaneously with Li Wei's attack, Ji Junxiang unleashed the Shenyu furnace. The Shenyu furnace underwent primordial awakening, its flames blazing fiercely. Tens of thousands of spiritual artifact scriptures erupted like a celestial sea, tearing the earth below into shreds. Long Qi, a formidable opponent rivaling even the emperor's disciples, let out a thunderous roar and mustered all his strength to defend. Boom! His 6th grade Thousand Inscriptions artifact shield shattered into pieces under the force of Li Wei's strike, sending his body flying sideways. Li Wei executed a graceful half-turn, his arm coiling like a drawn bowstring as he hurled Nangong toward Long Qi. With a swift motion, he slashed his sword at the Shenyu furnace. Not only were the immortal ascension beings in the vicinity stunned, but even the arriving enforcement group exchanged bewildered glances. What do we do now? Should we verify his true form? How could a 9th-generation immortal ascendant reach the peak of the 5th immortal realm? Even Ji Junxiang, aided by the body-transcending pill, only reached the early 5th immortal realm. He hasn't indiscriminately slaughtered immortal ascendants. He probably isn't a malevolent figure. The Deputy Sentinel Lord sent word that this Xiao Yu is a 9th-generation immortal ascendant and instructed us not to interfere. The 4 veteran powerhouses of the enforcement group present were collectively stunned, immediately realizing that Xiao Yu must be the Void Ruins ancient clan's trump card for the Life Spring competition. The Life Spring Jade Codex was likely in his possession. Li Wei's use of the eightfold profound robe transformation technique to convert his vital qi would be difficult to conceal from top-tier transcendents. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 7. The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 112 787 The Tai Chi Imprint. 112th of Volume 7. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. Shenyu furnace was forged from the head of a martial mystic Dao heavenly emperor with extremely high cultivation. The furnace body resembled an inverted skull, its golden bones gleaming brightly. Intricate spiritual artifact inscriptions covered its surface, and blazing flames erupted from its 7 orifices, carrying faint echoes of the ancient heavenly emperor's furious roars. As its primordial awakening activated, flames scattered wildly, and the spiritual artifact scriptures descended like a starry sea. The surrounding dozens of miles of wilderness ignited, the ground scorched dry, and massive boulders cracked apart in the inferno. Ji Junxiang, in his 5th immortal realm cultivation, fully activated the myriad inscriptions artifact. The resulting spectacle resembled 9 rivers of spiritual qi converging into a blazing sun. The azure jade ancient sword emitted a space-rending shriek as it slashed through the layers of spiritual artifact scriptures projected by Shenyu furnace, sending ripples of energy surging outward. The sword's edge struck the furnace body. Azure jade clashed against golden bone. Boom! A deafening roar reverberated across the boundless plains. The 2 colliding forces erupted outward, shaking even Nangong, Long Qi, and Qi Jianru 3/4 immortal realm peak experts standing nearby to their very foundations. Using a 9th rank 1000 inscriptions artifact battle sword to directly confront a myriad inscriptions artifact in its primordial awakening state. Even Southern Dragon Li Wei wouldn't dare such a thing. Qi Jianru retreated rapidly. As the second strongest member of Calamity Crossing Temple, his pride suffered a crushing blow. In this era, there seemed to be no place for him to rise. During his battle with Tai Sui Earth Monarch, Li Wei had either evaded the primordial awakening power of the myriad inscriptions artifact or countered it by activating his own myriad inscriptions artifact to its primordial awakening state using liquid qi. This was still within the realm of comprehension. But the current Ji Junxiang was far stronger than Tai Sui Earth Monarch had been in the 4th immortal realm. How could any 9th generation immortal ascendant possibly withstand Shenyu furnace's attacks like this? The Shenyu furnace trembled, emitting a series of whistling howls as it shot backward. Li Wei retreated explosively, each step sending him 10 zhong backward and leaving a trail of deep craters in his wake. The primordial awakening power of the myriad inscriptions artifact far exceeded his expectations. Without using imperial techniques or his own myriad inscriptions artifact, directly confronting it head-on would be nearly impossible. The 5th grade 1000 inscriptions artifact martial robe from the Clear Void sect, which he wore, was ignited by the Shenyu furnace's stray flames, burning like paper. Whoosh! Li Weiyi's spiritual qi surged forth, transforming into a powerful wind force that extinguished the flames. He glared at Jiyu Junxiang, who stood beneath the Shenyu furnace in the distance. As expected of the Emperor Junxiang's reincarnation, you do possess some skill. The world claims you'll be invincible in the 5th immortal realm and dominate the 6th immortal realm, but this Xiao finds you still lacking. To withstand the primordial awakening of the myriad inscriptions artifact and emerge unscathed left the elder experts of the enforcement group utterly stunned. What kind of monstrous talents are emerging among this generation of immortal ascendants? Even the most exceptional true disciples of the ancient sect and emperor's disciples would be crushed into self-doubt. It truly proved the saying, there are always greater men beyond men, and heavens beyond heavens. The world has indeed exaggerated his abilities. The title, invincible, is nothing more than a fatal flattery. Jiyu Junxiang's gaze remained steady as he stared into Xiao Yu's eyes, trying to penetrate his inner thoughts. Then, inscriptions spiraled around his right leg as he took a step forward. Luminous rosy mist flowed from beneath his foot, instantly closing the 100 zhang distance between them and bringing him face to face with Li Weiyi. The scepter, which had been raised above his head, descended like a collapsing heavenly pillar, its impact shaking the very heavens. Mysterious symbols left behind by the Void Ruins Empress materialized around the scepter, resembling runes, scripture, and laws. This strike was even more formidable than Shenyu Furnace's earlier attack. Wielding a major artifact grants immense power, but it sacrifices speed and adaptability. It's not without its drawbacks. Are you truly suited to wielding the Void Ruins Empress's scepter as a weapon, Jiyu Junxiang? Li Weiyi sidestepped the scepter with effortless grace, moving like a leisurely stroll. He raised his arm, his sword cleaving through the luminous rosy mist shrouding Jiyu Junxiang as he sought an opening to seize the scepter. Jiyu Junxiang casually raised his hand, unleashing a Dao technique from his palm that dispersed the encroaching sword qi. Both combatants were giving their all. The difference lay in the fact that Li Weiyi was fighting at full strength while concealing his true identity. Why aren't you using your myriad inscriptions artifact? Is it because you don't have one, or because you're afraid to use it? A powerhouse like you. Do you lack imperial techniques? Or do you disdain using them? Or are you simply afraid? Jiyu Junxiang's suspicions deepened. Spiritual qi surged from his body, condensing into a sea of clouds across the desolate wasteland, forcing his opponent to reveal their true abilities. The Void Ruins Empress's scepter danced in his hand, leaving trails of afterimages as he hurled mystical symbols at Li Weiyi. Simultaneously, Jiyu Junxiang manipulated the Shenyu furnace with his willpower, launching it at Nangong to exert maximum strategic pressure on his opponent. Nangong fought desperately, Long Qi's agonized screams echoing as he spat blood incessantly. Only the blood-floating pagoda demon armor kept him alive. A whistling roar erupted. The Shenyu furnace, trailing a blazing cloud of fire, crashed down with devastating force, sending Nangong flying 3 miles away, gravely wounded. Qi Jianru, go all out and kill the Void Ruins Holy Maiden. I'll support you with the Shenyu furnace. Hearing Jiyu Junxiang's command, Qi Jianru's pupils constricted. He shot forward like a beam of light, the pioneering sword scripture's characters blazing across his blade. With a single, sweeping strike, he unleashed a bright waterfall of sword energy that tore through the earth before Nangong, sending layers of soil soaring into the sky. It's no surprise the Void Ruins ancient clan possesses the Chun silkworm and Chun seedling, allowing someone to rapidly advance their cultivation by leaps and bounds within half a year. Jiyu Junxiang unleashed every technique he knew, imperial techniques erupting in rapid succession. He circulated the immortal scripture within his body to its absolute limit, determined to stop this, Xiao Yu, at all costs and uncover what he was hiding. You wish to witness the imperial techniques of the Taoist sect? Then I shall grant you your wish. Li Weiyi mobilized his liquid qi, circulating it through his body. The Tai Chi imprint within his divine gate materialized externally. In an instant, he merged with the natural world, as if ascending beyond mortal realms. Simultaneously entering the profound perception realm, he sensed the earth element laws, transforming the mundane into the miraculous. His sword descended with the weight of the earth itself. Jiyu Junxiang's expression shifted slightly. Unable to evade, he braced himself with his scepter. Li Weiyi's strike carried the force of mountains and continents. Upon collision, the Tai Chi imprint's rotational force sent Jiyu Junxiang flying 20 zhang backward, staggering uncontrollably. The swirling martial mystic qi was bizarre, distorting space itself. For a moment, Jiyu Junxiang nearly lost his grip on the scepter. For the first time, Jiyu Junxiang doubted his judgment. This isn't an imperial technique. Perhaps Li Weiyi could develop it into an imperial technique in the future, once his cultivation deepened, but not yet. It was only through the combined power of his physical body and the profound sense that it seemed so formidable. Li Weiyi's mind raced. Seizing the opportunity, he decisively abandoned Ji Junxiang. Dark yellow earth qi coalesced beneath his feet as he surged toward Nangong, who was besieged from both sides. With each step, the earth qi transformed into an 8 trigram seal beneath his foot, instantly covering miles and leaving Ji Junxiang far behind. Li Weiyi moved as if gliding through the empty void. Before his feet even touched the ground, he unleashed a fluid, seamless sword strike at Qi Jianru. A Tai Chi imprint, 10 feet in diameter, materialized within the sword's radiant arc, resembling a blazing sun in the sky. Sensing the lethal danger closing in from behind, Qi Jianru panicked. He abandoned Nangong, gripped the pioneering sword's hilt with both hands, and whirled around to parry. The force crashed down like a divine mountain, causing his bones to crack and creak. He staggered, collapsing to one knee. Boom. The ground within a 10-foot radius of Qi Jianru's body sank first, followed by a rapid outward expansion. The earth split and buckled, forming a massive, raised ring. 2 distinct types of sword qi scattered across miles. The crimson runes on Qi Jianru's blood-floating pagoda demon armor blazed fiercely against his skin. Streams of inky black demonic qi swirled around him like flowing rivers. Li Weiyi's sword forced Qi Jianru to kneel on one knee, completely immobilized. Dragging the azure jade ancient sword across the pioneering sword's blade, Li Weiyi struck Qi Jianru's wrist. The pioneering sword fell from his grasp and clattered to the ground. Qi Jianru's wrist felt like it had been broken. He let out a pained groan as his body flew sideways, crashing into a raised mound of earth. I yield. He shouted immediately. Whoosh. The sword in Li Weiyi's hand arced in a blue flash, stopping just beside Qi Jianru's neck. In that moment, Qi Jianru's heart seemed to stop beating, and he didn't dare move a finger. Had Li Weiyi hesitated even for a fraction of a second, this strike would have severed his neck. Not even the blood-floating pagoda demon armor could have stopped it. Li Weiyi narrowed his eyes, shifting the sword's edge to strike Qi Jianru's face with the flat of the blade, knocking him unconscious. Nangong, take him. At the same cultivation realm, Qi Jianru's ability to withstand even a single strike from Li Weiyi was already remarkable. Ji Junxiang was different. As a 5th immortal realm cultivator, he was a full realm above Li Weiyi. Boom. Ji Junxiang arrived a moment too late, descending with a thunderous crash. The Void Ruins Empress's scepter slammed into the earth, causing the ground to ripple like water. Luminous rosy mist and arcane symbols surged forth like a tidal wave, coalescing into a battlefield of light and shadow, depicting countless soldiers and warhorses, and charging toward Li Weiyi and Nangong. Whoosh! A brilliant sword light shot straight into the sky. The pioneering sword's primordial power awakened, cleaving through the rosy mist and tearing the earth asunder. A wide fissure stretched all the way to Ji Junxiang's feet. Ji Junxiang's brow furrowed deeply as he conjured a luminous wall of light with his staff, blocking the sword qi. Li Weiyi emerged step by step from the crater, his left hand holding the azure jade ancient sword and his right wielding the pioneering sword. His body was enveloped in the scriptures of his spiritual artifact. Myriad inscriptions artifact, he said, I possess it now. Can you withstand it, Ji Junxiang? The pioneering sword was Changshu's war blade, temporarily lent to Qi Jianru during the Immortal Ascension competition. Beneath the starry sky mirror at Xiaoyao Capital Lake, Changshu's fury burned uncontrollably. Who exactly is Xiao Yu? Where did he come from? Investigate. Immediately investigate the clear void Qingshu sect and Xiao Yu's entire lineage. Nangong, ethereal as an immortal maiden, stood on the earthen mound behind Li Weiyi, her heart now completely calm. The disastrous defeat at the 3 clan alliance's stronghold seemed like a distant memory. Her gaze swept across the battlefield. The critically wounded Long Qi stood in the darkness several miles away, dangerously close to the 4 elder powerhouses of the enforcement group, his form flickering in and out of sight. Far across the sky, immortal ascension beings from the Holy Dynasty, Demon Kingdom, and 3 clan alliance clashed in fierce battles across various fronts. Spiritual artifacts collided in the void, and Dao techniques illuminated the night sky. Some of these immortal ascension beings were pursuing them. Holy Maiden, save me. A Holy Hall's life realm immortal ascension being, appearing to be in her early 20s, named Nangong Ning, was being hunted by a thundercloud leopard. Severely wounded, she bore a palm-sized claw mark on her back, half her body soaked in blood. Covered in runes, she rushed toward Li Weiyi and Nangong at top speed. Suddenly, Nangong Ning, filled with self-reproach and anguish, cried out, Holy Maiden, I'm sorry, I can't help it. Boom. In utter despair, Nangong Ning's ancestral field erupted with a world-shattering force, instantly tearing her body into fragments that dissolved into a blood mist. The earth shattered, and the cataclysmic power annihilated everything around her. Someone had concealed a transcendent Dao technique within her ancestral field. The 4 elder experts from the enforcement group roared in fury from afar. One of them, an old man whose cultivation had reached the Nirvana realm, surged forward and rescued Ji Junxiang, who was farther away. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, The Primordial Law. Volume 7, The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 113, 788, Seizing the Scepter. 113th of Volume 7. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Xiao Yu, and the Void Ruins Holy Maiden were too close to the destructive force to be saved. The remaining three enforcement group powerhouses scanned their surroundings, vigilant for any suspicious individuals to prevent a second incident. It had happened so suddenly. No one had anticipated that an immortal ascension being from the Holy Hall's life realm would suddenly attempt to kill Xiao Yu and the Void Ruins Holy Maiden through self-destruction. Beneath the starry sky mirrors of the various life realms, a chorus of gasps and furious condemnations erupted. Everyone knew this was the Demon Kingdom's doing. Unable to defeat their opponents through conventional means, they had resorted to such a vile tactic, abandoning all pretense of honor. Li Wei and Nangong survived, shielded by the Emperor Talisman's talisman light, which propelled them over a mile away from the blast. Within Li Wei's spirit realm between his eyebrows, Zhenhai Guanwu's rune on the Emperor Talisman dimmed slightly. This time, the Emperor Talisman had blocked the attack because the target was Xiao Yu, triggering its transcendent power. If the enemy had known his true identity as Li Wei, they would have undoubtedly employed a different strategy. Even the Emperor Talisman couldn't guarantee Li Wei's survival. Nangong's face was deathly pale, her eyes burning with hatred and icy resolve. The agonizing expression on Nangong Ning's face as she died haunted her mind, refusing to fade. The coldness in Li Wei's eyes surpassed even Nangong's. Nangong silently flew toward the epicenter of the destructive force, addressing the elder powerhouses of the enforcement group who were investigating the scene. Her voice was low and urgent. Seniors, who controlled Nangong Ning. The Dao technique used on her contained spiritual qi. We must trace it back to the mastermind. Two of the enforcement group's strongest members stationed in the Wolf Sovereign Wilderness Deputy Sentinel Lord Shui Qianshu of the Great Void Camp and Crown Prince Qi Lanshuang, the foremost expert of the life realm in the Central Plains corridor, descended in their true forms. They simultaneously unleashed their spiritual qi and scriptures, bathing the night sky in a kaleidoscope of iridescent light. Shui Qianshu's gaze, as cold as frost, fixed on the starry sky mirror. His voice rumbled like thunder. This transcendent Dao technique bears the spiritual qi signature of the Holy Master of the Holy Hall's life realm. That's impossible. Nangong retorted. The Holy Master died a year ago, devoured by the corpse Emperor Hunwu. Exactly. That's precisely what our enemies exploited to leave the enforcement group with no evidence, Shui Qianshu countered. I understand your anger, but mine burns even greater. The Demon Kingdom has crossed the line. From the darkness, a distant voice echoed, we implore the enforcement group to remain impartial and cautious in their words. It's clear this was a trap set by the Holy Hall's life realm, intended to kill Jiyu Junxiang. Otherwise, how could those two juniors have survived? The Holy Hall's Holy Master likely faked his death and went into hiding. Shui Qianshu retorted, they resort to such clumsy tactics only because they can't win through proper means. We all know right from wrong. Indeed, a Demon Kingdom powerhouse's voice boomed from the shadows. The Holy Hall's life realm suffered a crushing defeat tonight, their very stronghold breached. It's no surprise they'd resort to such vile methods. Qi Lanshuang, hunched over, tapped her black metal cane against the ground, sending ripples of spiritual qi spreading across the lands of Luzhou and Han Province. Since the Heavenly Emperors have summoned this old woman to oversee the Immortal Ascension competition in the Wolf Sovereign Wilderness, let no one cross the line. Whichever side I find evidence against will face my full investigation. Throughout the exchange, Li Wei remained silent, fully aware that if the enemy dared to act, they would never leave the enforcement group any incriminating evidence. Jiyu Junxiang's expression darkened. If not for the transcendence of the enforcement group intervening, he might not have survived. Shui Qianshu's telepathic message reached Li Wei's ears. Every time a martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor of the human race falls, it is often accompanied by cataclysmic events. The Heavenly Emperor's wrath brings corpses stretching 10,000 miles. The Heavenly Emperor's death throes shatter heaven and earth. The current conflict is relatively mild. At least the Demon Kingdom hasn't attacked the Holy Hall's life realm. Even as the army of the dead massed at the formation Great Wall, the Mist Celestial and the Demon Monarch refrained from engaging in an imperial war. The current Immortal Ascension competition is the outcome the human race's leaders most desire. Therefore, all human race powerhouses can understand the Demon Monarch using any means necessary, even skirting the edges of the competition's rules. But this understanding has its limits. If the Demon Monarch fails in his ascension attempt in 2 years, breaks his word, and stubbornly attacks the Holy Hall's life realm, threatening to drag billions of humans to their graves, someone will personally send him to his end. However, no one can act before that moment. Even martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperors grow old. We cannot set a precedent for their premature demise. Do you understand? Li Wei turned his gaze toward Shui Qianshu. This time, the Demon Kingdom has crossed the line. They must pay the price, Shui Qianshu said, his voice cold and resolute. Li Wei, abandon your disguise and eliminate all the young dead spirit experts pursuing us. After this battle, Crown Prince Qi and I will help you evade the Demon Kingdom's powerful pursuers. Crossing the line wasn't just about the Demon Kingdom killing Nangong Ning, they had also publicly humiliated the enforcement group before the entire world. More importantly, someone within the Demon Kingdom might have made contact with the corpse Emperor Hunwu. Otherwise, where would the Holy Hall's Holy Master have acquired his spiritual Qi and Dao techniques? Li Wei didn't respond to Shui Qianshu, his mind already made up. He strode swiftly toward Nangong. Nangong had recovered. Sensing Ku Yao's spiritual light and the malevolent aura of the fallen spirit powerhouses in the distance, and seeing silver frost and gray cloud rapidly spreading toward them, she immediately warned, "We need to leave now." The Demon Kingdom has invited several Fifth Immortal Realm fallen spirit powerhouses, each with extraordinary combat prowess. They treat the Immortal Ascension competition like a hunting game, and among them are the three holy monarchs, even more terrifying than Jiyu Junxiang. Our encampment was breached because we couldn't withstand them. Of course I'll leave. My life is paramount, and I must cherish it above all else. But before I go, I need to retrieve something. Li Wei turned to Jiyu Junxiang in the distance. Jiyu Junxiang, are we still competing in this Immortal Ascension competition? Jiyu Junxiang's gaze remained as still as an ancient well. You seek the Void Ruins Empress's scepter. In our previous clashes, your desire flickered at least twice. Human desires cannot be concealed. Just as you know I crave the light spring. But Xiao Yu, you will never claim the scepter. If you don't flee now, Ku Yao, the three holy monarchs, and the nine-tiered pagoda battle formation will arrive, sealing your escape. When Jiyu Junxiang uttered, Xiao Yu, his voice carried a deliberate emphasis, highlighting the true identity. The Emperor Talisman's radiance had been swallowed by the destructive forces, discernible only to Shui Qianshu and Qi Lanshuang. If you're so confident, then don't run. Let's see if I seize the scepter from your grasp first, or if you can hold out until they arrive and crush me. Li Wei gripped his twin swords and strode forward, his pace accelerating with each step. Sizzle. The tips of the azure jade ancient sword and the pioneering sword scraped across the ground, sending sparks flying as wisps of sword qi radiated from their blades. Jiyu Junxiang's ink-black hair billowed forward, whipped by the surging sword qi. His gaze remained fixed on Li Wei, unwavering, determined to face his generation's strongest opponent head-on. Whoosh! Whoosh! Four immortal bones erupted from Jiyu Junxiang's ancestral field, soaring forth with spiritual qi and the immortal scripture. They coalesced into the four immortal beasts of Zhen, Baxia, Zuming, Chaofeng, and Chunyu. This was his ultimate imperial technique. Zuming spread its twin wings, its razor-sharp talons poised like swords, diving down from above. Chaofeng sprinted across the ground, hot on its heels. Judging by the density of Zuming's condensed form, Li Wei could tell that Jiyu Junxiang's cultivation had advanced rapidly in the past 6 months. Li Wei leapt into the air, instantly activating the primordial awakening of the pioneering sword. The blade transformed into a colossal, 30-foot-long greatsword, its weight increasing tenfold. With a single strike, he cleaved through Zuming's fiery body. Landing lightly on Chaofeng's head, Li Wei moved like a phantom, closing the distance to Jiyu Junxiang in an instant. The azure jade ancient sword slashed horizontally. Come at me. Jiyu Junxiang activated the 9-layer demonic pagoda heaven-piercing technique, encasing his body within a towering demon tower. The azure jade ancient sword struck the tower's surface with a metallic clang, its vibrations numbing Li Wei's left hand and forcing him to retreat. Seizing the opportunity, Jiyu Junxiang strode forward and swung his staff in a downward strike. Li Wei glanced at the approaching fading spiritual cloud, showing no sign of evasion as he raised the pioneering sword to meet the attack. A Tai Chi imprint materialized around him, and his sword radiance sent Jiyu Junxiang flying backward. Blood trickled from Jiyu Junxiang's hands. Li Wei gave him no respite. With his left hand, he conjured countless illusions with the azure jade ancient sword, targeting Jiyu Junxiang's lower body. Jiyu Junxiang retreated swiftly, forming a finger seal. A bestial roar echoed through the air. Baxia, one of the four immortal beasts of Zhen, emerged carrying a stone tablet on its back. Its body, forged from dark iron, channeled 4 streams of earth qi through its legs, forming a barrier against Li Wei's assault. In the next instant, an invisible weight descended upon Li Wei's shoulders. Jiyu Junxiang had appeared above him with astonishing speed, his body enveloped in the mountain-like 9-layer demonic pagoda heaven-piercing technique. He plummeted from the sky, aiming to crush Li Wei beneath the tower's crushing force. Boom! The ground beneath Li Wei's feet crumbled and sank, threatening to transform into an abyss. His eyes burned like torches as he retreated, then moved upward along the tower, his twin swords slashing down in a torrential storm of strikes. The Tai Chi imprint and 8 trigrams marks flashed repeatedly within the sword light. Li Wei's figure soared to the tower's peak. Below, the 9-layer demon tower cracked into a dense web of fissures before collapsing with a thunderous roar. Li Wei stood suspended in midair, his hair whipping wildly, his spiritual qi surging to its peak. The 50,000 inscription characters etched into his golden bone blazed with light as he plunged downward, unleashing a single, heaven-rending slash. One sword, not two. Ji Yu Junxiang looked up and saw the pioneering sword's spiritual artifact power, sword intent, and sword qi stretching like a bridge between the northern and southern skies, poised to cleave the earth in two. Meanwhile, the azure jade ancient sword, guided by Li Wei's willpower, darted through the air with the speed of thunder and lightning. Ji Yu Junxiang activated the Shenyu furnace's protective barrier to block the azure jade ancient sword, then broke free from Li Wei's sword intent lock and retreated. The pioneering sword descended. Boom. Unable to fully evade, Ji Yu Junxiang watched as a miles-long fissure of sword qi tore through the earth beneath his feet. Ji Yu Junxiang was sent flying backward, spitting out a mouthful of blood. When his feet finally landed, he steadied himself and immediately used the Void Ruins Empress's scepter to support his injured body. There was no time to catch his breath as the ringing of a sword echoed in his ears. Reacting swiftly, Ji Yu Junxiang swung his scepter 3 times in rapid succession, knocking the azure jade ancient sword away. Whoosh! Li Wei transformed into a series of afterimages, appearing before Ji Yu Junxiang in an instant. Employing the spirit treasure seizing hand technique, his arm blurred into a phantom of 1,000 hands as he seized the Empress's scepter. With his other hand, he thrust the pioneering sword toward Ji Yu Junxiang's ancestral field. But he missed. Ji Yu Junxiang executed a body cultivation technique he had never used before, his feet stepping out scripture-shaped blossoms. Abandoning the Empress's scepter, he retreated, narrowly evading the strike that could have crippled his cultivation. Li Wei stood alone on the desolate plain, pioneering sword in one hand and the Empress of Time's scepter in the other, watching Ji Yu Junxiang retreat 3 miles away. The speed of their exchange was breathtaking. "You've won," Ji Yu Junxiang declared, turning to leave. Stepping on scripture-shaped blossoms, he vanished with effortless grace into the night sky, now thick with flames and smoke. Moments later, a second voice reached Li Wei's ears, mingling with the sound of a fallen spirit powerhouse tearing through the air, but you didn't win completely. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, The Primordial Law. Volume 7, The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 114, 789, Immense Contribution. 114th of Volume 7. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Ji Yu Junxiang, relying on his sheer strength and refusing to retreat or evade, managed to stall the battle until the fallen spirit powerhouse arrived, plunging Li Wei into even greater danger. Yet he still managed to escape unscathed. Li Wei held him in high regard, convinced that Ji Yu Junxiang's future achievements in the martial mystic Dao would be extraordinary. Perhaps millennia from now, when mountains and rivers had shifted and old acquaintances had faded into memory, Ji Yu Junxiang would still be brimming with vitality. But life is inherently unpredictable. No one can guarantee they will see the dawn's radiant glow tomorrow. I never expected to find a master of your caliber among the human race of southern Yingzhou. The Life Spring Jade Codex is in your possession, isn't it? Hand it over, and this sovereign will spare your life. The 3 holy monarchs' voice was brimming with confidence and domineering authority as he tore through the air, arriving first. His majestic physique was shrouded in a gray malevolent aura, clad in dark blue armor. Thunder and lightning patterns flickered across its surface. The 3 holy monarchs possessed the physical body of an ancient heavenly emperor, making his natural defenses superior to any armor below the myriad inscriptions artifact level. However, with only the 5th immortal realm, his speed while considered the pinnacle within that realm was his perceived weakness, unworthy of the heavenly emperor's body. Hence, he wore speed-enhancing armor. First in the 5th immortal realm, was the ultimate aspiration for any cultivator at that level. Yet, to him, it was a disgrace. He disdained competing with peers of the same realm. As the 3 holy monarchs approached, the wind force emanating from him grew increasingly frigid and piercing, like divine swords and immortal blades hacking at Li Wei with thunderous booms. Li Wei used his protective spiritual qi to withstand the wind force, feeling the oppressive aura of the martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor. His soul spirit, emotions, and willpower churned like a tranquil lake struck by a massive boulder, yet his body remained unyielding, his gaze sharp, and his battle intent blazing. Ever since their encounter in the Mu clan, he had yearned to test himself against this dead spirit born from the corpse of the ancient heavenly emperor. Whoosh! The pioneering sword in his hand instantly underwent primordial awakening, its radiance surging exponentially. Such audacity! With such battle intent, how could this sovereign deny you your passage to the afterlife? The 3 holy monarchs, their minds aligned with the martial mystic Dao Heavenly Emperor, gazed down upon all living beings. Spreading the 5 fingers of his right hand, he unleashed a massive palm strike from dozens of meters away. The palm imprint, formed from inscriptions and corpse energy, weighed heavier than a mountain. As it descended upon Li Weiyi, the imprint grew larger, the earth beneath him collapsing into a palm-shaped crater. Li Weiyi's aura blazed as he swung his sword skyward, the blade's light cleaving through the palm strike. With astonishing speed, the three holy monarchs' true form materialized directly above Li Weiyi. His chi surged with overwhelming force as he plunged downward headfirst, his palms striking in rapid succession. Ordinary immortal ascension beings would be torn apart by the palm wind alone, never even touching his hands. Boom! The three holy monarchs' palms clashed violently with the primordial awakening pioneering sword. The sword's edge slashed across his palm, and martial mystic Tao Heavenly Emperor laws materialized on his skin. The laws imbued with the secret power of a martial mystic Tao Heavenly Emperor elevated the three holy monarchs' defenses and strength far beyond their current realm. Wielding a sword in one hand and a scepter in the other, Li Weiyi clashed head-on with the three holy monarchs 17 times, each strike forcing him back a step, the earth behind him exploding with each retreat. Their collision shook heaven and earth. Such a clash of power was rarely seen even in the sixth immortal realm. Knowing the three holy monarchs' origins and terrifying power, Nangong grew increasingly concerned for Li Weiyi's safety. She soared into the air, summoning the light spring. Its radiant glow illuminated her slender, graceful form, rendering her translucent as carved jade, like an immortal sculpted from precious stone. Her 10 slender jade fingers formed intricate finger seals against her chest, activating the light inscriptions. Instantly, the three skull heads on the three holy monarchs' neck were enveloped in threads of light. The threads held for only a moment before being shattered by the three holy monarchs. But that fleeting instant, the three holy monarchs' attack faltered, their movements slowing for a fraction of a second. Seizing this once-in-a-millennium opportunity, Li Weiyi swung his scepter with a whistling force, aiming a devastating blow at the monarch's head. The three holy monarchs roared 3 times, and the 6 eyes of their 3 skull heads unleashed beams of crimson, pale, and golden light, respectively. Energy ripples exploded outward, and shockwaves spread in all directions. Boom! The 2 combatants abruptly retreated, creating a 100-jong distance between them. Li Weiyi braced himself with his scepter, his hands trembling violently. The dozen or so exchanges had nearly shattered his fingers. Without combining psychic martial mystic techniques, his raw power paled in comparison to the three holy monarchs. Moreover, he couldn't even breach their physical defenses, they could defeat him with bare hands. This ancient heavenly emperor's corpse retains residual laws, making it impossible to overcome such a vast realm gap. Unless I cultivate the second stage of the golden holy bone, Li Weiyi thought grimly. The three holy monarchs landed heavily, their armor crackling with lightning. A sinister gray mist swirled around them, accentuating the grotesque terror of their 3 skull heads. The humanoid skull in the center spoke, "You defeated Ji Junxiang, truly impressive. You're the first to withstand so many of my strikes at the same realm. You deserve the title of second strongest in the 5th immortal realm." Li Weiyi ignored him, retreating 3 steps to rejoin Nangong. Nangong had just cast the light inscriptions, but the 3 holy monarchs shattered it, causing a backlash that left trails of blood streaming from the corners of her eyes. "You two won't be escaping this time." Xingqian circled behind Li Weiyi and Nangong, stopping 100 jong away. Hailing from the bone plateau deep within the nether realm of the dead, Xingqian was a humanoid golden bone skeleton at the 5th immortal realm. He held a 3-legged ancient cauldron aloft in his left hand, his entire skeletal frame etched with ancient runes. These runes had been inscribed by martial mystic Tao Heavenly Emperor level powerhouses, who sought to study a particular cultivation method. Li Weiyi had seen similar runes on the imperial pattern bone marquee in the Void Ruins ancient kingdom. The difference was that the Emperor pattern bone marquee was a failed experiment. The imperial patterns on bone monarch Xingqian's body, however, were clearly far more refined, each stroke flowing with starlight, radiating dazzling brilliance. Yi Sansheng approached from the left. "Even if we didn't encounter Li Weiyi, the Dao technique successor of Yu Yaozi, killing Xiao Yu and seizing the life spring jade tome is still a decent outcome." Yi Sansheng hailed from the ancient Yi city, his cultivation having reached the peak of the 5th immortal realm. In stark contrast to the 3 holy monarchs, this being possessed 3 bodies but only 1 boar-like head, 6 arms, and 6 legs, making it utterly grotesque. Its 3 right hands each held a prayer bead, a mudra seal, and a meditation staff. "Your base has been shattered, and the holy maiden has fled in panic. Have you considered the fate of the immortal ascension beings from the Holy Hall's life realm, Lingxiao Palace, and Rainforest living realm?" A melodious female voice echoed from the darkness to the right. Silver frost hissed across the ground, spreading until it reached within 30 meters of the light spring, where it melted, unable to approach Li Weiyi and Nangong. The Silver Frost Lady hailed from Yingzhou's foremost sea of corpses, the Silver Marsh Corpse Sea. Though a corpse spirit, she showed no signs of decay, her skin was smooth as jade, and her silver hair flowed like a starlit river. Behind her stood 3 pure immortal physique beauties, immortal ascension beings lined up in a row. Infected with corpse poison, their pupils had turned silver, transforming them into living corpses. Li Weiyi's gaze darkened as he recognized one of them, Su Yuyan, a true disciple from the Four Sovereign sect, one of the Holy Hall's Life Realm's three great ancient sects, with whom he had once crossed paths. Nangong struggled to suppress her grief and fury as she glared at the distant enforcement group. She refused to believe that immortal ascension beings, with their immense cultivation and power, wouldn't have had time to concede defeat. Two senior members of the enforcement group, unable to meet her gaze, silently closed their eyes. Like Lu Tianwen, they too longed to eliminate these fallen spirit experts. But rules were rules. During the 3-year competition, they were bound to act according to the established regulations. The Silverfrost lady, sensing Nangong's thoughts, smiled faintly. We would never dare violate the rules on human race territory. Holy Maiden, please do not doubt the enforcement group's impartiality, they are fulfilling their duties diligently. Li Weiyi's gaze swept across the three holy monarchs, Xingqian, Yi Sansheng, and Silverfrost. So you still remember this as human race territory? Do you think the Wolf Sovereign Wilderness is your personal playground? Xingqian, his feet treading starlight and imperial patterns flashing across his body, stepped forward with a cauldron held aloft. Your Excellency is mistaken. The Wolf Sovereign Wilderness is not only human race territory, it is now our territory as well. Li Weiyi's eyes narrowed. Xingqian continued with a smile in his voice, I am a dead spirit war servant subdued by the Demon Kingdom's border army, a friend and ally of the human race. I can help them scout the nether realm of the dead and patrol the borders. Isn't that right, Lord Longqi? In the distance, Longqi nodded with a smile, though he dared not speak in response. Yi Sansheng added, only we can infiltrate the nether realm's core leadership and obtain the most valuable intelligence. Your sentinel spirit army is incapable of such feats. The human race cannot survive without us. We've been lurking in the enemy camp, undertaking the most dangerous missions, and dedicating ourselves to the human race. Our meritorious service is recorded in the border army's records. Now that we've finally returned after earning great merit, we're being ostracized and treated with hostility by you immortal ascension beings who dwell in the life realms, indulging in comfort and luxury. Who will serve the human race in the future? Does the Holy Maiden still doubt us? The three holy monarchs sighed deeply. We've made unparalleled contributions to the human race. Why shouldn't we be allowed to participate in the immortal ascension competition? Beneath the starry sky mirrors in the various life realms, a chorus of curses erupted. In past immortal ascension competitions, fallen spirit powerhouses had occasionally appeared, but never with such brazenness as this year. In the distant darkness, the sound of bells and the thunder of battle echoed. Mo Duanfeng led the Holy Dynasty's immortal ascension being battle formation to intercept Ku Yao and his 9 blood-piercing floating pagoda demon armor-clad warriors, triggering a fierce clash. Meanwhile, scattered groups of immortal ascension beings from the Holy Dynasty and the Three-Clan Alliance converged on the battlefield where Li Weiyi and Nangong were engaged. Enraged by the arrogance of the 4 dead spirit monarchs, a peak third immortal realm immortal ascension being roared, even if their cultivation is high, there are only 4 of them. We'll attack from the flanks and assist the Holy Maiden Ah. Yi Sansheng, standing closest, unleashed a palm strike imbued with blue karmic fire. The immortal ascension being had no time to activate his protective talisman. The force of the strike critically wounded him, sending him flying unconscious. Mid-air, the blue karmic fire incinerated him into a charred skeleton. Li Weiyi and Nangong were too late to intervene. A veteran powerhouse from the enforcement group, a 7th immortal realm cultivator, couldn't restrain himself. Ignoring the rules, he attempted to intervene, but he was a step too late to save the man. Enraged, he stomped his foot, ready to resign from the enforcement group. He was furious. He believed the Demon Kingdom's actions had set a dangerous precedent, turning the immortal ascension competition into a miasma of chaos. Yi Sansheng gently raised one of his 6 hands, releasing a wisp of spiritual chi from his palm. A spiritual artifact and a jade tome beside the charred skeleton were enveloped by the spiritual chi and flew into his hand. Yi Sansheng picked up the jade tome and examined it. The boar-headed demon let out a hearty laugh. Another county secured. The human race's immortal ascension competition is truly fascinating. It's so easy to gather vast cultivation resources. Amitabha. I've accidentally committed another act of slaughter. Who could have imagined the human race's immortal ascension beings would be so utterly defenseless? Holy Hall's life realm. After a great battle, Yu Yaozi was recuperating from her injuries at the ancestral mountain of the Void Ruins ancient clan. She now stood beneath the starry sky mirror, gazing at the 9-headed dragon. Isn't this going too far? Not at all, the 9-headed dragon replied calmly. For the sake of the Demon Kingdom and the entire human race, the Demon Monarch has already made the greatest concessions. Given his status among humans, if you truly considered the greater good, you should have voluntarily offered up the life-preserving spring and life spring. Yu Yaozi dropped the matter and asked instead, is Yu Daojun still not making a move? The 9-headed dragon didn't evade the question, smiling. As long as Xiaoyao Capital's 5 elements formation remains intact, no one will dare act rashly. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 7. The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 115, 790, The Void Ruins Empress's Scepter's Power. 115th of Volume 7. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Nangong turned to Qi Lanshuang and Shui Qianshu. 4th Immortal Realm dead spirit monarchs have appeared on the Immortal Ascension competition battlefield, completely disrupting the balance and capable of sweeping across the entire arena. If left unchecked, the distribution of benefits from the Immortal Ascension competition will ultimately be determined by the Nether Realm of the Dead. Once this precedent is set, every life realm in future generations will follow suit. Qi Lanshuang and Shui Qianshu remained silent. Li Wei, aware of the human race's leadership stance, maintained his composure. Nangong, everything has its advantages and disadvantages. Their courage in participating in the Immortal Ascension competition is truly remarkable and worthy of admiration. Immortal Ascension beings can concede and withdraw, but they cannot. Upon hearing this, cold glints flashed in the eyes of the 3 holy monarchs, Silver Frost, Yi Sansheng, and Xingqian. They secretly exchanged telepathic strategies. We cannot let Xiao Yu escape. We must not give Nangong the chance to concede and withdraw. Activate the transcendent spiritual power within the light spring and test its capabilities. Li Wei handed the Void Ruins Empress's scepter to Nangong, his gaze wary as the 3 holy monarchs and Bone Monarch Xingqian closed in from both sides. Yi Sansheng, riding a cloud of blue karmic fire, appeared overhead. Silver Frost led 3 corpse servants, patrolling the battlefield's perimeter. The Void Ruins Empress's scepter, 7 feet long, radiated a brilliant light spiritual power. Nangong gently grasped it, and immediately felt a familiar, bloodline-connected sensation. The scepter and the light spring's radiance surged simultaneously. Whoosh! The white light transformed the night sky into day. Countless mystical symbols erupted from the scepter, swirling around them in greater numbers than even when Ji Yu Junxiang activated it. Nangong had never seen these symbols before, yet she found herself instinctively understanding the power they contained. Within her chest, at the Zongdan Spring, a unique mystical symbol materialized, far more complex than any of the floating symbols in the void. Fragments of hazy memories flooded his sea of consciousness. Every cultivator present sensed an extraordinary aura, and gasps of astonishment echoed through the battlefield. The light spring seems to be growing even more active. Legend says the Void Ruins Holy Maiden is the Empress's reincarnation. Could it be true? They say the Empress's scepter can manipulate the power of time. It was lost for 20,000 years, but now that it's back in the hands of the Void Ruins ancient clan, miraculous changes seem to be occurring. The 3 holy monarchs and Bone Monarch Xingqian sensed the anomaly. Instead of being alarmed, they were delighted, their desire to seize the Empress's scepter and the light spring intensified. Excellent. Channel the transcendent spiritual power to aid me. Li Wei discovered that the scepter was drawing forth the light spring's spiritual power. Abandoning his plan to deploy the great wind, fire, thunder, and lightning formation, he spread his arms wide, gripping a sword in each hand. Nangong soared above the light spring and swung the scepter. 2 streams of transcendence-level light spiritual power surged into the pioneering sword and the azure jade ancient sword. Whoosh! Whoosh! Twin blades of sword chi erupted from the swords. Li Wei's entire being surged with power. The battle swords in his hands pulsed with a power that far exceeded his current cultivation level, creating a subtle sensation of being controlled by the blades themselves. Struggling to maintain control, he said, after tonight, the 9th generation immortals of the Demon Kingdom will meet their end. The sword blades traced a horizontal arc, intercepting the 3 holy monarchs who were descending with their tridents. Whoosh! Fueled by transcendent spiritual power, the pioneering sword's primordial power shattered the earth below with a mere graze. The 3 holy monarchs' expressions shifted abruptly as they immediately switched from offense to defense. Their battle halberds transformed into pillars as thick as tree trunks, plunging into the earth to block the pioneering sword's trajectory. With a thunderous crash, the 3 holy monarchs and their trident-like pillars were sent flying backward. They couldn't withstand it. Li Wei stepped into the void, circling the light spring, and reappeared behind Nangong. His azure jade ancient sword slashed at the incoming 3-legged ancient cauldron. Buzz! The 10-jong tall cauldron trembled violently as Li Wei intercepted it midair. A visible layer of vibrating force rippled across the cauldron's surface. Behind the cauldron, Bone Monarch Xingqian was shaken so violently that his bones shifted, sending him plummeting to the ground. The moment his feet touched down, the pioneering sword transformed into a massive, 21-meter-long greatsword and came crashing down. The 3-legged ancient cauldron was cleaved in 2, and Bone Monarch Xingqian's golden bone body shattered into fragments, exploding into a shower of bone shards. He died instantly. No one had anticipated such a swift reversal of fortune, leaving even the veteran powerhouses of the enforcement group speechless. Bone Monarch Xingqian, a fifth Immortal Realm cultivator, had previously attacked the three clan alliance's stronghold, proving that no Immortal Ascension being could withstand a single strike from him. Yet now, he had been slain with a single sword stroke. It wasn't that he lacked strength, rather, the myriad inscriptions artifact battle sword in Li Wei's hand had its power amplified by the Transcendent's light spiritual power. Combined with his already formidable combat prowess, he became virtually invincible. This was precisely why Li Wei was determined to seize the Void Ruins Empress's scepter tonight, no matter the cost. Without the scepter, the light spring would be of extremely limited use to Nangong, unable to provide Li Wei with any battlefield support. Damn it, they can channel Transcendent's spiritual power to activate the myriad inscriptions artifact. The Silverfrost lady's expression turned grave, shaken by Li Wei's earlier sword strike. She admitted to herself that even she couldn't have blocked it. Don't be intimidated. No matter how powerful a spiritual artifact is, its effectiveness is still limited by the cultivator wielding it. Yi Sansheng, you and this sovereign will restrain Xiao Yu. Silver Frost, go kill the holy maiden of time, leave no survivors. The three holy monarchs burned with battle intent, fearless and resolute. Within the ancestral field, crimson, pale, and golden spiritual chi erupted, blanketing dozens of miles of the desolate wilderness. Whoosh! Three-colored torrents surged from the trident's prongs, converging into a roaring, 100-jong-wide flood that hurtled toward Li Wei. The three holy monarchs were arrogant, but far from foolish. They had no intention of engaging Li Wei in close combat at this moment. They understood that wielding such a heavy artifact would inevitably restrict his speed. To harness the Light Spring's transcendent spiritual power, their opponents would be constrained by both the Light Spring and the Void Ruins Holy Maiden. No matter how formidable the pioneering sword's power, maintaining distance would render their opponents helpless. However, the three holy monarchs focused solely on themselves, forgetting that Yi Sansheng still hovered above Li Wei and Nangong. Whoosh! Li Wei hurled the azure jade ancient sword. The sword streaked like an azure comet, piercing through the corpse servant Su Yuyan and hurtling toward the Silverfrost lady in the distance, intercepting her advance. Then, he seized Nangong's hand. Come with me. With Nangong and the light spring in tow, Li Wei soared skyward on the wind, evading the tricolored torrent erupting from the trident's prongs. Yi Sansheng, a powerhouse at the peak of the fifth immortal realm second only to the three holy monarchs, showed no fear as Li Wei and Nangong ascended toward him. He hurled the bright pearl and ancient seal from his hands. Li Wei cleaved both spiritual artifacts apart with his sword, shattering them into luminous fragments that scattered in all directions. The myriad inscriptions artifact's sword radiance slashed across the night sky. Yi Sansheng dispersed the sword radiance with a wave of his scepter, using the momentum to retreat into the void. Nangong's beautiful eyes, deep and restrained, struck Li Wei's back heart meridian with a palm strike, unleashing a river of light that propelled him 2 miles forward in an instant, catching up to Yi Sansheng. No. Sensing danger, Yi Sansheng spun around, raising his staff to block. The pioneering sword slashed down with overwhelming force, shattering the staff. Yi Sansheng's ghostly body shattered into a sea of blue karmic fire. Li Wei immediately retreated, calling out, Nangong, collect the karmic fire. I have great use for it. Karmic fire is a crucial resource for cultivating the sixfold samsara burning karma technique. The ghost marquises of ancient Yi city typically possessed green karmic fire. The four-eared ghost monkey marquise's karmic fire was blue-green. But Yi Sansheng's karmic fire had completely transformed into pure blue, which could help Li Wei cultivate the sixth layer of sixfold samsara burning karma technique. On the distant Moon River grassland, Tang Wanzhou stood alone by the riverbank, sword in hand, gazing at the starry sky mirror suspended above the distant city. She shouted, well done. Seeing Li Wei and Nangong jointly defeat the fallen spirit powerhouse, she was immediately reminded of their unforgettable time in the Void Ruins ancient kingdom. Tang Wanzhou was certain that Xiao Yu was Li Wei. Only Li Wei, who shared a life and death bond with Nangong, could hold her hand without her resisting in the slightest. This bond transcended mere romantic affection, rooted in a trust so deep they would entrust each other with their lives. Some immortal ascension beings from the Sword Dao Imperial Court had already departed for Twilight Manor City in the Wolf Sovereign Wilderness to attend the Jade Tome Trade Conference. But she remained on the Moon River grassland, savoring the tranquility and evening breeze alone. Outside the Calamity Crossing Temple's mountain gate, beneath the starry sky mirror. Eldest brother, what do you think of this Xiao Yu? Could he be the 10-spring southern dragon? A Calamity Crossing Temple disciple asked Shenji. Shenji, his severed hand now healed, pondered carefully, hesitant to make a rash judgment. Hard to say. Logically, it's rare for a second such formidable figure to emerge among the 9th-generation immortal ascendants. But then again, who can say for sure? Perhaps. Maybe. Possibly. The surrounding young disciples rolled their eyes in unison. His answer was as good as no answer at all. The eldest brother is becoming more like the elders every day, they thought. His words are always so vague and ambiguous. Yaoyan felt deeply worried. The Divine Hidden One had been missing for half a year, and she feared he had been secretly killed by the Demon Kingdom. If Xiao Yu was indeed him in disguise, it might actually be a good thing. Through the starry sky mirror, she saw Yao Qingshan within the Holy Dynasty's battle formation, and a different, indescribable emotion stirred in her heart. Empowered by transcendent spiritual power, Li Weiyi's combat prowess was so overwhelming that the three holy monarchs and Silver Frost began to consider retreat. Is this even the power of the fifth immortal realm anymore? After exchanging a telepathic message, the three holy monarchs and Silver Frost immediately regrouped and fled westward. Whoosh! Nangong repeated her earlier tactic, unleashing another palm strike that conjured a luminous river of light, propelling Li Weiyi across several miles to intercept the fleeing pair. The three holy monarchs' feet sank into the ground as they abruptly halted. The laws inscribed on the ancient heavenly emperor's corpse materialized across their bodies. Raising their tridents skyward, they braced for the pioneering greatsword's descending strike. The trident's three-colored beams of light clashed against Li Weiyi's greatsword, dissolving inch by inch under its relentless force. Boom! The sword's edge slammed into the trident's tip, driving the three holy monarchs completely into the earth. The surrounding ground shattered across dozens of meters. The Silverfrost Lady, caught too close, was sent flying backward by the overwhelming martial mystic chi. The three holy monarchs' laughter echoed from beneath the earth. Xiao Yu, you've fallen for our trap. Without the Void Ruin's Holy Maiden's transcendent spiritual power, this single sword strike is all you have, isn't it? Abandoning their trident, the three holy monarchs erupted from the ground, unleashing an imperial technique with both palms. Azure nether lightning surged from their palms, coalescing into a tree branch as thick as a bowl. The lightning branch lashed out, shattering the air with deafening thunderous booms. Li Weiyi parried with his sword held horizontally like a shield, blocking the azure nether lightning and sending his body spiraling downward. Azure nether lightning surged into Li Weiyi's body. Fortunately, he had cultivated lightning techniques and quickly neutralized the energy, sustaining only minor injuries. A glance from the corner of his eye revealed silver frost spreading across the ground, but the Silverfrost Lady remained hidden. Whoosh! Behind him, a vast expanse of luminous rosy mist and mystical symbols surged forward like a white ocean, its waves crashing with majestic force. In the next instant, a thunderous roar shook the air. A towering, 100-jong tall light and shadow of the Void Ruins Empress materialized behind Li Weiyi, radiating boundless light and unparalleled beauty, exuding the majestic aura of an ancient heavenly emperor. Nangong's long hair billowed as she ascended into the sky alongside the Empress's light and shadow, her scepter pointing directly at Li Weiyi. Countless mystical symbols coalesced into a river that surged into Li Weiyi's back heart meridian, circulating within his body. Li Weiyi unleashed a sword strike that cleaved through the air, shattering the lightning branches formed from azure nether lightning. The sword radiance cascaded like a waterfall, slicing across the 30-meter distance to strike the skull-headed wolf on the three holy monarchs left. The skull exploded in a shower of shattered bone. This strike, accompanied by a scattering of myriad inscriptions scripture, proved utterly unstoppable. The three holy monarchs screamed in agony, staggering backward. Li Weiyi's voice, initially distant, grew closer. Your body is that of an ancient heavenly emperor, but your heads. They don't seem to belong. Thwack. The pioneering sword slashed horizontally, severing the three holy monarchs' remaining two heads, which flew into the air. The headless corpse crashed to the ground with a thunderous thud. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel.